The first time Howard and I climbed together was when we were invited to a university climbing club meet at the CIC hut on Bear Nevis in April 1972. And we had similar objectives, and we achieved some fairly classic routes like Tower Ridge in full winter conditions, and very memorable it was too. Really, that's what led on to the next 40 years of first climbing and then sailing and generally adventuring together.
Head to wind?
Yeah, head to wind.
Okay.
Okay, engine off.
Bear away a bit there.
Yeah.
Engine off. In fact, we can probably ease the main a bit, can't we?
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
4.5 knots.
Yeah, it's going to be more than that in a minute.
So how's the route looking, Roger, for today?
Pretty good. I think it's a course of about 300 magnetic up to Ardnamurchan Point.
Yeah.
We've got a bolt hole in Loch Soonot if the weather turns bad.
Yeah.
And then once round Ardnamurchan Point. If we could sail up to the sky and go into Loch Scavaig, then it's only sort of 300 or 400 yards up the Carusk River to Loch Cruz. And then there's the Dubhs Ridge halfway along that.
We both climbed there.
And we have both climbed there in the past, and fantastic memories. And then I've also had a look at the tides on this. So that's a good positive tide up around Ardnamurchan Point.
Well, that should give us a good passage,
which looks like a good passage providing the wind's okay.
Great.
This is what you go sailing for, to be honest. I suppose we could do with a dolphin and a pilot whale or something, but
We may still get
we may get those before the day's out.
I can well remember the day when Roger called me to say he'd suffered his first debilitating MS attack. It was a big shock to me. I'd no idea that a fit and young person like Roger could get MS, so it just floored me, and I thought, well, that's it, that's the end of our climbing.
Station. This is destroyed by Coast Guard. There is a new gale warning, southeasterly, gale force 8, imminent.
Okay, Howard, well I think we'd better head back for some shelter in Loch Soonot.
Increasing, severe gale force 9, soon.
Can you come up and help me turn the boat around?
I'm 63 now, but when I was 27 I was unfortunately diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, or MS for short. I was running down some stairs in college on the first day of term and I fell over and landed on my backside. And a day or two later I started limping. Because it didn't clear up, I went to the GP who said it was probably some sort of concussion. And then it did get better over a few weeks, but then unfortunately it came back in the other leg and they told me that I probably had MS. Even though I was a medical student, I really knew nothing about multiple sclerosis. And in my darker moments, it really just conjured up images of severe disability. Because I'd lost a lot of my strength, balance and sensation, I never climbed with Howard again. So it's a pretty wild night, isn't it?
I've been checking our position all night because the boat's been swinging close to these rocks. The wind seems to have veered round to the north now, and we're being blown away from them, so I think we should be okay. Let's get some sleep.
Okay.
This is Stormy Coast Guard. Here's the Maritime and Safety Information Broadcast. There are currently no gale warnings in force for the Stornoway forecast district.
Sounds good.
I see the lunar module still being in regular use, Howard.
It's a brilliant piece of kit,
And
isn't it?
yeah, I know. And the amazing thing is it folds away into a matchbox.
Yeah, but you've never got the hang of that, have you?
Well, I keep working on it year after year.
Yeah, well, you'll get it one day as well. I hope we don't have to have another one of those.
And the forecast is looking a lot more promising for today anyway, so we should have quite a good passage up, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
I was brought up with sailing from a very early age by my parents, and I think when that's the case it goes very deeply back into your psyche.
It's about 300 magnetic.
Unfortunately for me, throughout the years of my MS I was able to carry on with sailing, and Howard and I were therefore able to continue adventuring together. Well, I've still got good strength, and even though I don't have the coordination and stamina, so I can hold on a boat and I can get around okay on a boat, because there's always something to hold on to. Sailing was really the lifesaver. Using sailing, we've managed to keep doing adventures into the mountains and wild environments.
I was never a sailor like Roger, and at first I couldn't see what all the fuss was about. For me, adventure was something you did up in the mountains, so at first I wasn't very keen, but he finally did convince me, and after that first trip I was just hooked.
Well, we're just coming into Scaveg, past a small headland on the port side there, and you can see the climbing huts ahead, which is at the bottom of the Krusk River, and the Coolin is stretching from right round to the left, right round to the right. You've got a blue sea, blue sky, a few fluffy white clouds. Couldn't be more magical. And we might even see the Dubhs Ridge and get up the side of Krusk tomorrow. Well, it's good to be back on Martha Maria is all I can say. The usual luxury bunks.
You just about fit in.
Okay, well I think it's about time to retreat down into this pit.
Have a good sleep.
And
see you in the morning.
Good night.
Switch your light off and you have to reach up there. Towards the lamp. Oh God, I'm going to have to get up every time, Roger. Bloody hell. Oh, there's still a light up there. Anything I missed?
No, I think that's pretty well it. Some chocolate, you better take that.
Yeah.
My going along beside Krusk is really just going to be dependent on my legs. It's fairly easy going.
Yeah, but you might make it to the base
of the.
You might make it to the base of the Dubhs Ridge.
Okay, well that'd be fantastic. Yeah.
My plan while Howard goes up onto the main ridge is to try and get to the foot of the Dubhs Ridge, which is halfway along the side of Loch Krusk. To get there I'll have to follow the Scaveg River for about 400 metres. And after that, when you reach the loch, it's another fairly rough track along the side, and the question is whether my stamina will last that long or not, but I'll certainly give it my best try.
So how about we meet back here at 6 o'clock?
Sounds fantastic. I mean, supper at 8, but I mean, on the basis of past experience, I'd assume you'll be back between 2 and 3 in the morning.
Yes, Roger, yes.
But I'll leave a dinky
Be prepared for anything. Great trip.
Be careful.
Okay.
I'd love to get up on the ridge with Howard, but reality is that that's not possible, and an attainable Everest for me might be just to get to the foot of the Dubhs Ridge itself. In the early phase of my MS, it was very hard to imagine what life was going to be like if I was going to end up severely disabled. I'd been very active, climbing, sailing, competing in modern pentathlon, flying with the University Air Squadron. The way my MS developed was that I had relatively good spells in between the bad spells, so at first I was able to get back to some hill walking. I'd hoped to join Howard on a trip he'd arranged to the Himalaya, But because I was recovering from an attack at the time, that wasn't possible. Later, I managed to work at a mission hospital in northern India, and afterwards crossed into Nepal and was able to arrange a trip around the Annapurna Massif. I'd planned to use horses, but in the end my legs had improved enough and I was able to do it on foot. We trekked up the Kali Gandaki, spent 2 or 3 days in knee-deep snow crossing the high Thorong La Pass at 17,700 feet and going down the Manang Valley on the other side. That had only been open to Westerns for a couple of years and so was incredibly unspoilt and undeveloped. And it was truly the most amazing walk I've ever done. In the early 80s my legs were improving. Howard had talked a lot about his ski mountaineering and it seemed like something I could still have a go at. Howard arranged some weekends up in the Cairngorms. Cairngorm skiing, as far as I remember, was mainly over rock and frozen heather, but we still had some very good days, climbed some Munros. We then planned a trip to the Silvretta Alps and spent a week going from hut to hut and crossing the Silvretta Pass. One of my arms became fairly useless and that made things fairly hairy on some of the steep ascents and doing kick turns and so forth. But even despite that setback, we were able to complete the trip. It was a great success for me and gave me hope for future ski tours with Howard.
Oh wow, there's the Dubhs Ridge. That's a fantastic view of it, I must say. Oh, I need to sit down. I think it's still too far for me to get to this time, so that's a bit disappointing, but there we are.
I'm just looking up to the Dubhs Ridge, to Sgwr Du Beg. It's the first peak that you reach when you scramble up from Loch Carruths. I mean, it's really too bad Roger and I can't enjoy that together anymore. But it's great to sail with him. We really perform as a team on the boat as we used to on the hills, and we get a tremendous satisfaction out of that.
Most people, when they walk, it's all completely subconscious. When I walk, I have to think about absolutely everything. Getting my foot off the ground, moving it forward, putting it down, transferring my balance. It's all hard work. And as I've described it to other people, it's rather like wading through treacle.
Well, it's always just wonderful getting up on this ridge and enjoying the views. I don't think I'll ever get tired of that. I just hope Roger's having a good day. It's early evening now and the sun has gone down behind the mountains. Oh, it looks like we got company. Might even be our friends on Yacht Liberty. Perfect. How's your day, Roger?
It was fantastic actually, Howard, it was really good, but Unfortunately, I didn't manage to get right up to the Dubhs Ridge, but it was very nice going along the side of Loch Carruthg anyway. I just got a bit tired, so in the end I turned back, and it was still fine. It was really fantastic views, and I thoroughly enjoyed the day.
Oh, great.
Well, it's extremely good to see you safe and well. It's certainly better than 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, which is what it was last time we did this about 14 years ago, wasn't it?
Stop talking about it.
Oh my God, it's getting worse. It's getting worse.
Let's be serious about this. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Very, very
Yeah,
good.
great.
You know, you don't get days like today that we've had today. Anyway, so how about you, Rog?
Well, I got round into Carruthg, but I didn't actually get up to the Dubhs Ridge, which was the objective.
Yeah.
It was just that bit too far, and my legs were knackered basically.
Right,
So I had a
right.
couple of rests, but I didn't get there.
But you got round the corner.
And I saw the views. I saw
Yeah.
the Dubhs Ridge. It would have been
Yeah.
nice to get to the bottom, but it wasn't quite possible. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just going to go and have a look on deck actually. Minutes. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll row back to Martha. and
That's fine.
in a few
I'll see you in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He's a bit disappointed that
Well, he didn't get round
that he
that.
didn't get. You know, he was all fired up this morning, and he thought he would get further up the loch.
Well, it's a long way.
But I
Is there anything we think we could do to him?
we could do. You guys are going to stay here tomorrow?
Yes,
Yeah,
a couple
we
of
get
days.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
Seems a shame.
What I find very difficult to cope with the MS, which is now in its secondary progressive phase, which means it will just get steadily worse, is the unpredictability in knowing how things will pan out in the future. And I know that's true of everybody, but in my case with the MS diagnosis, there's an inevitability about it which is both alarming and also difficult to cope with.
Here's a good idea, yeah.
A lot of upper body strength, so that would be great.
Yeah.
All right.
So
when-
we've got to hold the thing up, have we?
No, that.
Yes.
we have.
Oh right. okay, I'm up for it. I'm up for it.
Right.
All right. Well, let's hope the weather
Yeah, so
sticks around for tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that'd be good.
just one thing. We're not going to tell Roger this. It's going to be a surprise for him.
Jolly good.
Jolly good idea.
We'll enjoy
I
that.
think a drink to that.
Drink to that, yeah.
Mum's the word. Okay, that's a very good idea.
Here's your stick, Roger.
Can I just ask what you're doing with this thing, folks?
You will find out, Roger.
On some mornings it's quite difficult to get up, but then on the other hand I've had huge support from friends, relatives, colleagues at work, which actually makes things worth keeping going for. And there have been some wonderful times over the years, despite times when my MS has been even worse than it is now, when life has been absolutely fantastic. And it's these friends and colleagues, and the sailing of course, that's got me out into these wild places, which have been so fantastic in giving life a purpose, and a great pleasure still.
Can we stop and have a sandwich now?
No.
The hobbits have been paid off, so they're going to take the sandwiches.
No.
Okay,
Come and join us. We've got sandwiches.
Okay, That's really fantastic. Well done, you lot. There isn't room with you, so I'll see you further up the loch, okay?
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll see you up there. Have a good row. Get some good photos of the Dubhs Ridge.
Should be good.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of rocks. There's rocks just behind that.
Yeah, it's brightening up too.
It's so easy compared with walking. Well, I last did it properly when I was at university in the climbing club with Howard. We almost ran up the Dubhs Ridge. It was a hot sunny day and we had rock boots on, and it's very, very frictive granite. You can almost run on all fours up it. There were one or two places where you had to use a rope and abseil. And I mean, Howard couldn't do all that yesterday, but he certainly got some flavour of it. Well, and this is the Dubhs Ridge I've been talking about, this amazing sort of whaleback of rock, streaked with water after the showers, but stunningly beautiful.
Oh, well done, Roger.
Hi, Howard.
You made it to the foot of the Dubhs Ridge.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
well done.
Brilliant.
Hey.
Was that good?
Yeah,
fantastic. Well, thank you for making it happen.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
brilliant.
Oh, you're welcome.
Superb.
That was a lot of fun.
Wasn't that a good project?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. God, the weather's superb too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cleared up. I mean, it's
Fantastic.
amazing how it changes.
This is just a poem I rather like because it's a play on the words of the Dubhs Ridge. It said, Solly to Maynard one day in Glen Brittle.
All serious climbing I vote is a bore.
For once I do beg, you'll agree to do little.
And as less we can't do, we'll go straight to do more.
So when they anticipate a day's relaxation...
He's muffed it! Every time, Roger. Bloody hell.